South Carolina is bringing in some of the best young talent across the nation.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball, your number one sports podcast network, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. I'm here with Golden State Valkyries radio analyst Sophia Jones. My name is Kalia Butler, the sideline reporter for the Chicago Sky. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. So in terms of what we're going to get into today, we're going to talk a little bit more about CBA as we're getting near the new year, what that could possibly look like if the players decide to strike. We're going to go over a preview for UCLA coming up against Ohio State, which will happen on Sunday. But first, South Carolina is reloading with some top talent that you need to know about. So I mentioned in the open that it's across the nation, but truthfully, it's internationally as well. I was just talking to Sophia about this in terms of I saw some Twitter things of people saying Dawn Staley can't really recruit, yada, yada, yada. I don't know where those accusations came from, because if you're looking at the caliber of players that are coming in right now, those people would be quiet very quickly. First one is Jerzy Robinson, who is a 6'2" guard currently playing at Sierra Canyon. She is the number 5 ranked player in ESPN's 2026 ranking. And overall, she has been a star in the making, and she has a lot of great potential as well. Sophia, I'll throw it to you first. What do you like about her, and what do you think was her overall reason to committing to South Carolina?
Well, overall, I think that Dawn Staley definitely recruited a star, because Jerzy Robinson, she has the on-court game and the personality to go along with it. She announced her decision even on NBA Today in that Los Angeles studio, because she goes to school at Sierra Canyon, which is, of course, in the area. But she said on the show that she chose South Carolina because she had a sense of peace when it came to the decision for her. A lot of that, I'm assuming, having to do with Dawn Staley and just the reputation that South Carolina has built over these past couple of years, specifically under Dawn Staley. But she is 6'2" guard, so tremendous size already. She's got a real physical presence to her as well. And when you talk about that guard position, a lot of strength to take the opposing defender to the basket. She's very shifty scorer with a deep bag to get to her shot. So she'll provide a lot of offense for this South Carolina team. But I think one of the things that stood out to me most when I was scouting her was her competitive spirit. She plays with so much confidence. If she has a tough bucket against you, she is going to let you know. And I think that's another thing that fits into South Carolina's identity as well, because they have just a lot of dogs on their team, quite frankly. And she'll be a really high impact player for the Gamecocks. Like I said, a really aggressive scorer to create offense at all 3 levels. I think that aspect of all 3 levels will be important, because South Carolina for a while has been more so a interior and paint dominant team, and as well as just mirroring Dawn Staley's competitive mindset. We know how Dawn gets going on the sideline. She was a menace herself when she played, and I see some similar comparisons in Jerzy's game.
I like that you mentioned that too, because she has a certain sense of being confident without being reckless. I think that is a really significant factor for Coach Staley, because obviously you're South Carolina. At times you can start getting a little bit comfortable when those great games are stretching out. You've built a little bit of a lead. I think people have saw this season when the lob pass was thrown to Nia Latson, and Coach Staley just had to sit there with that for a second, just be like, are we serious right now? She does not play games like that. So the fact that Jerzy Robinson is coming in so young and has a certain level of maturity that I feel like we're starting to see more and more out of young players that are getting recruited. And I think when, there's so many factors going into recruitment nowadays between transfer portal, trying to get in, some freshmen that are ready to jump in and play right away. It can be difficult to find talent like that. But having those leadership skills seems to be a priority for more and more coaches, and your character over necessarily just your athletic ability. But great thing for Jerzy Robinson, it seems like she has both. She has the potential to be very versatile at being 6'2". She has a lot of length. She can see over defenses, defend bigger wings. She also has been great at her own shot creation. Words are hard. And defensively as well as having a high basketball IQ in terms of what we've seen. But Sophia, I'm going to throw this to you too, because you're better at pronouncing French names than I am after working with the Valkyries. Who is our 6'7", 18-year-old professional French basketball player that we can also see on this roster coming up soon?
That would be Alicia Tournebize. My dad actually knows how to speak French, fun fact, because he grew up in Toronto. I only know how to speak Spanish though. But she will actually join South Carolina after the holiday break and will be eligible to play immediately. So she'll get a little bit of a head start against Jerzy Robinson. But we talked about her a little bit last episode in potential or some of the best freshmen in the country. And I mentioned her as an honorable mention because she hasn't played yet, but she has potential to see herself into those ranks. But she has tremendous athleticism at 6'7", so she runs the floor well. She has really solid footwork and lateral mobility. And when I say that she has athleticism, it is evident in the video of her just throwing down a two-handed dunk off of one foot off of a fast break that she started. So that already, I think, is tremendous. But she'll really provide some paint presence. She scores well around the rim, as well as just offering that protection down low. When you see 6'7", it's hard not to get flustered by that size. And she also has smooth jumper in the mid-range. So I think she'll operate well with maybe more traditional back to the basket posts and be able to step out and knock the shot down. But for the Gamecocks, she will add more front court depth, which they really need right now this season. Mainly just sitting between Joyce Edwards and Medina Alcott, having to play a lot of those minutes. So if she does decide to play, like I said, she'll be eligible. It doesn't necessarily mean that she will play, but she will provide a lot more size and depth there. And she just stretches the floor a little bit, like I said, for a paint-dominant team. So when you can get, again, 6'7", able to stretch out and shoot the mid-range, that is going to be so dangerous for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, and a team that has prioritized, obviously, that front court depth so much throughout the years and has really relied on that. You mentioned a little bit of a lack of depth this season with that. So being able to have somebody that could potentially play come into the rotation at this point, right before, you're getting right into conference play, getting comfortable before you head into March Madness and all that good, fun jazz. You really want her to start getting comfortable with this team right now. If, again, she does decide to play, not necessarily sure about that just yet, but a lot of key pieces that are continuing to build up for South Carolina, who unfortunately loses players to the WNBA. So clearly they're doing something right, but having to rebuild a little bit with more future WNBA players. But coming up after this, we are going to preview that UCLA and Ohio State game. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can get your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Even contracts are offered by Robinhood LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. The season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There are nights when your team stresses you out. Let DoorDash become your post-game therapy. Sometimes you just need dessert now. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season, delivered right to your door. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. All right, number 4, UCLA is going up against number 21 Ohio State on Sunday. UCLA, they're both off to a very strong start, only having one loss on the season. We'll start with UCLA. They're 11-1 right now, only coming off a loss. Not coming off a loss. This was over Thanksgiving. But their only loss of the season was against Texas this season. We obviously know the threats that they have between Lauren Betts, Kiki Rice. Sophia, what breakdown can you give of what we can possibly see for UCLA on Sunday?
Well, with their only loss coming to Texas, I think that is still really impressive considering that they also have ranked wins against Oklahoma, North Carolina, and Tennessee this season. So they're already pretty battle-tested heading into this conference play. But throughout the course of the year, they just wear down teams with their defense and then pushing tempo on offense. When you watch some of these games, they might not jump out at you right away, but they just make a bunch of winning plays that end up accumulating. And next thing you know, they're up by about 20 points. But even going into the season, a lot was dependent on Lauren Betts, and you could tell that she was the centerpiece of their offense. But it's actually been the players around her that seem to have really stepped up and make this team as competitive as it is right now. Lauren Betts, she's still the team centerpiece. She's leading them in rebounds at 7.5. She's averaging 15.2 points per game on 59% field goal. So you'll like that efficiency. But the team's leading scorer right now is actually Kiki Rice, who is averaging 15.3 points per game. So just 0.1 above, but she still holds that title. But for Lauren, even when she's not scoring at as high of a rate, she is so gravitational and draws so many eyes on defense that it really allows everyone else to have the space to create. And I've really liked what I've seen from Kiki Rice this season and taking a lot of that responsibility on her shoulders. She is handling the ball, also playing off ball, but being that dynamic scorer that we know she can be. And I think the addition of Charlize Ledger-Walker, or just her being available this season, she's their team leader in assists, 6.7 per game. But that tandem right there, I think, has just worked really well. And also just takes a lot of pressure off of Kiki Rice to be able to score when she isn't handling the majority of the game. But it's been that trio, which, of course, the hustle of Gabriela Jaquez and then the three-point shooting of Gianna Neepkins. So they're still a very strong team. They have that loss to Texas, but I know that they'll want to avenge that. And they have a lot of chances to keep boosting their resume in the Big Ten.
Absolutely. When we're continuing to talk about the Big Ten for Ohio State, as we're officially getting into the real swing of conference play, they're also 11-1, as I mentioned. Their only loss this season coming to UConn, which was a bit of a blowout, 100-68. Playing against UConn is difficult for any team, apparently. They did have a ranked win against West Virginia, and they opened up Big Ten play with a win over Northwestern. Who are some players that we can look out for when it comes to Ohio State?
The main player I would say that you really need to make sure you watch out for is Jaloni Cambridge. She is averaging 19.3 points per game, 5.6 rebounds per game, 3.6 assists per game, and also 4.6 steals per game. So she's been the primary playmaker on both ends of the ball. She's a 5'7" guard. So really being at that front line in the backcourt, getting it done. But she's their main offensive force and just being disruptive on both ends of the floor. She's definitely one that it'll be interesting to see the matchup between her and Kiki Rice. Kiki Rice, a really solid defender. Cambridge, also a very solid defender. So it might come down to the other players involved in that, which for Ohio State will also consist of Chance Gray, 5'9" senior guard, who's kind of the secondary scorer and just all-around player, and Kylie Kitts, 6'4" forward, who will have not only her hands full with Lauren Betts, but she's also Ohio State's leading rebounder and inside scoring threat. So it'll be a battle between select players on the perimeter and in the paint for sure.
Absolutely. When we're looking at kind of the big picture for these games, I think specifically when it comes to, and we're going to look at SEC and obviously right now Big Ten play, is both of those conferences have at least 8 ranked teams. Obviously, a UCLA and Ohio State is a ranked top 25 matchup. But I think specifically for this conference, it's going to be important to get some of these ranked wins within the conference early to kind of cement yourselves, because every single game is going to be a fight. UCLA going to Ohio State, who has been undefeated so far this season at home, being able to have some of that crowd momentum, home court energy. But also Ohio State is a team that could pick up a little bit on the defensive end of things, because they're really going to try to crack down on obviously Betts, Jaquez, Kiki Rice. That's going to be a significant aspect of, if you want to beat UCLA and kind of cement yourself within the Big Ten early, you got to get down to the defensive side of things when it comes to them.
Exactly. And UCLA, they've been the favorite to win the Big Ten. Lauren Betts has been the favorite to be the MVP or player of the year in the Big Ten. So this will be a really big statement for Ohio State early if they manage to get the win. Like you said, they're undefeated at home, so they could really ride that wave. And I would say also it would be beneficial to get this win against UCLA early as well, because Sienna Betts is also still just coming into the rotation a little bit. And she's someone that could just continue to make UCLA even more deep. And if it's something where this is a different team or a deeper team further down the line, I think they'll want to just nip it in the bud right away, get this win, and start Big Ten conference play off strong, like they already have, continuing that momentum against Northwestern. And for UCLA, they beat Oregon to start off Big Ten play. And Ohio State will honestly just be another signature win for them. They've had a lot of wins against ranked opponents. They just got to make sure that they recreate that same success.
Looking back at the recent head-to-head history between the two teams before they go against each other on Sunday, UCLA won 65-52 in their regular meeting last season, but behind a very strong fourth quarter that they had. And they also defeated Ohio State 75-46 in the 2025 Big Ten tournament semifinals. So we'll see what this rematch looks like going back to Columbus on Sunday. Should be an overall exciting one with some fresh faces for the Big Ten to be excited about. But coming up after this, we are going to get a little bit more clarity on what a potential CBA strike could look like for the WNBA.
During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building. The energy of the crowd, that first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets, fast, simple, and without the guesswork. I recently used Game Time to watch the Oklahoma City Thunder at home against the San Antonio Spurs for Christmas Day. And let me tell you, Wemby is different in person. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action.
A little update when it comes to CBA negotiations. As we've talked about a couple of times so far, has been extended all the way through January 9th now. And we've also had some reports in terms of NBA Commissioner Adam Silver potentially wanting to step in a little bit more when it comes to CBA negotiations. But the WNBPA President Nneka Ogwumike had an interview with ESPN last Friday, which described the vote as a symbol of our unity and the confidence that we have in each other to be able to give ourselves some level of authority in these negotiations. But she also seemed as though she wanted to move to give ourselves as much leverage as possible to get a good deal done. When we're thinking of some of that leverage she could potentially have is the fact that she was the first player to openly sign with Project B, which allows players to have equity within the stakes, earning up to almost $2 million within the first season, just starting out. In terms of her salary, obviously has been at the forefront of these negotiations along with Napheesa Collier and other players as well. But it seems as though their main focus right now is understanding some of the backing that they have, that Unrivaled is going to be starting soon. Players are signing to Project B. It seems like it is giving them more of that confidence and push to kind of tell the WNBA, listen, we really will not play and we are going to stand on business because of that.
Exactly. She even added, quote, "This means we could possibly strike if we need to, but doesn't mean that we want that to happen." And I think by adding that, when the headlines initially went out and people saw strike, some of the sirens went off. And I think that's exactly what the WNBPA was trying to achieve. They were trying to just get everyone to understand the gravity and what they're willing to stand on, which is not playing so that they can get paid what they feel like they are owed. Ogwumike also added, "We have it in our arsenal in order for us to get exactly what we need, which is a fair deal that represents our value in a very meaningful way." So again, just like you said, standing on business, they really want that salary structure to be figured out so that they get a good portion and just have that be, or get a proportional rate to the basketball related income of the league. And that's really what they're fighting for. But like you added, I think with a lot of these other leagues going on and starting, and with Nneka specifically being the first open person to sign to Project B, that puts pressure on the WNBA because they say, we're not going to play, but we're just not going to play in the WNBA. We have other options, quite frankly.
Yeah, the overall consensus seems to be that obviously the players do want to play, but they are also comfortable not playing if that is what it comes down to. The 2026 season isn't expected to tip off until May. So they're not too concerned about canceling games just yet. However, within some of the recent CBA talks, the league did mention wanting to start it all the way as early as March and extending games, moving this season up even earlier, which would conflict with the NCAA tournament. But as of right now, it's still planned to start officially in May. But there have been some anonymous players or just people within the league that have spoke saying they're not very concerned about missing any games at this point. And when we're looking at the WNBA season as a whole, it is not very long. So if they can't necessarily come to terms and there's already let's say 5 games missed and then officially season starts, that has to hurt in terms of if the players are also looking, for revenue, stuff like that. Missing games isn't going to necessarily help with that. Is it going to be a huge impact? I don't necessarily know what those numbers would look like. But you ideally hope that you don't miss as many games because, yes, have games been added? Yes, there was 44 this season. But at the end of the day, if you're only playing, let's say 35 games, those are still missed opportunities for these players who are obviously growing this league right now.
And I think everyone also recognizes that it is going to be really important to have a 2026 season with the momentum that the WNBA is going in. You want to capitalize on that growth that has been experiencing. There was another common belief amongst league insiders that said that both sides understand the importance of having a 26 season. So like you said, it's still unlikely that games will be missed. Another agent predicted that Adam Silver is going to step in and say, ladies, we're not moving on this and this and this. We will do this and this and this. And then we're going to get a deal done early January. That is another sentiment that I heard from another agent within the WNBA, that they think that something is going to get done within the end of this year or early next year. But it just, again, all depends on which side, I guess, is really willing to bend a little bit more, because right now it almost appears like the WNBA players are not quite at that stage. Agwumike even saying she feels like the talks are still a bit in their infancy, which the league, of course, countered and said that they strongly disagreed with the WNBPA's characterizations of the current state of negotiations. There always seem to be disagreements on what is reported by either side. But from, like I said, from this article that ESPN put together, and then from multiple people that I've talked to as well within the league, they do feel like there will be a season, something will be resolved.
Yeah, and I think that's the hope that most people are holding on to right now. Obviously, the players should utilize as much leverage as they possibly have to get exactly what they are fighting for. But at the end of the day, nobody doesn't want to have a WNBA season. That would be much more detrimental than anything else for the league, for the players themselves, even though they do have some of these other leagues to rely on. These are all places that, have home teams, have home arenas. It's not just in Miami. It's not internationally and F1 styled. People want to be there, support their teams, and I think the players want to do the exact same. So ideally, they will be able to come up with a resolution sometime soon. And then you'll also be able to see Sophia and I doing our jobs on top of that. That I think is obviously selfishly what we want. No, I'm just kidding. But ideally, you would be able to tune in and see us. And honestly, that would be the biggest kicker of all, because you come and watch Locked On Women's Basketball every single day. And that's what is most important. But that being said, thank you so much for tuning in to Locked On Women's Basketball. We will see you guys again soon. We hope you had a wonderful holiday. And we will continue to chat about women's basketball.